All right. So I'm gonna spend 2 hours today here. Has been a long time since haven't done streams, but I think I'm gonna go back to normal now, where just doing this every day in the morning. So I think I stopped. Yes, I probably stopped doing this when I was building the graph to explore Jinja 2 templates. I was working on the stack frame and script visualization stuff, and that's what I'm gonna be doing today. So I already did most of the work, I think, which is basically. Well, also, I've received an email for a company that says that it's kind of like a Fiverr, but more professional, where it's not freelancing. You, once you sign up to the site, you can do a bunch of tests, and then based on how many tests you pass, you can find jobs. So I decided to obviously sign up to the site. And I thought some of the tests I did for real, just because I thought that I knew the stuff that they're testing through. For example, they have Python and other courses. I think I'm going to show it here actually. So these are the tests. But a lot of these tests, I thought it would be a very good idea to just do them and take notes on what they are asking for, because then I can know what's actually useful to study, and I can cut a lot of time of researching and going through a bunch of bullshit that doesn't matter. And these are the tests I did so far. Uh, Obviously, I felt like I knew Python enough to pass SQL and machine learning. Wasn't expecting to fail data analysis, but there was a couple of things in here that I haven't heard about, and this data engineering as well. Then blockchain I did for real. C I ended up passing, but I just guessed everything I didn't know really well. Also C++ passed and D3 passed, but I didn't know really well. Then also did Bash and expected to pass, but I didn't pass because I thought it would be a lot easier. But turns out that you can do a lot of stuff that in the basic courses that I was watching on YouTube. Now I know that they are basic, but obviously the courses don't tell you that on YouTube, and that's why I think that this is a great idea, because usually YouTube or these tutorials or these sites, which it pisses me off as well, even Free Code Camp, they don't really teach you exactly what you're gonna need in the actual job. They're just kind of trying to make it seems like they are making the things easier, just so people do them and don't quit, instead of showing you what's actually useful in the real world, let's say. And here they're actually testing for the things that matter when you're actually going to do a job. So that's why it's good. This DevOps I also passed, but I didn't know shit. I was just lucky. And I asked for them to see if I can redo them, but then they said that I will have to wait 3 months to ask again. So Django I just did to see what they're asking for, Flask as well. And these data structures and algorithms I also thought I would be able to pass, but turns out it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. They were asking a bunch of questions about a bunch of different algorithms that I never heard of, and some stuff that, some binary trees or something like that, which is crazy. So that would be very interesting to study. Docker also did it just to know what's up. Git I thought I would pass, but also didn't pass. There's stuff there that I never seen, which the site that was training Git doesn't talk about at all. And maybe I think they don't talk about it because they didn't do all the levels, but In JavaScript also, there was some stuff that I never heard of, and I thought I would be able to pass, but I didn't pass. Then I did all of this last year. React, I wasn't that confident. I thought I would be able to pass, but I wasn't that confident. But turns out that I could pass the test. But I'm still not very sure if I'm good or not, so I'm gonna wait until I do the React Native because they're slightly different. React.js is just for JS, as far as I know, and React Native is multi-platform. So I'm gonna wait to study more about it to do this. Redux, I thought I would pass and didn't pass. And then I learned a lot of stuff just doing these tests and writing things down about a bunch of stuff that I need to study. TensorFlow turns out was the easiest one for me, I think, because it was all about the stuff that they talk about on Kaggle, about Keras, APIs, and stuff like that. Maybe I'll ask for them for a link to do this refer and win 250 to put on my stream or something like that. And because then if someone signs up and is able to get a job, I'm gonna make money off that, which is obviously a win-win. And then I took notes a bunch on all of the tests I did. I created this file here and I took notes of it. So I think that's what I'm gonna be doing after I'm done with the script visualization stuff. I'm gonna get the ones out of the way that I need to study first. And I'm gonna go through the list and study them a lot. And then after I do that, I can come back on the Jinja Tree stuff. And everything obviously just is like compounding it on itself because it's a virtual cycle. The more you know, the more capable you are to build things to help you learn. So it scales out. And let me open up one of them. So data structure and algorithms, which was the one that was crazy to me. So here they talk about Prince algorithms, binary search tree, auxiliary space complexity, priority queues, backtracking methods, Hamiltonian circuit problem, traveling salesman problem, Kruskal's algorithm, no minimum spanning tree, disjoint set, data structure. All these things I never heard of anyone saying, which is just crazy. And it's very hard to find courses or tutorials or any website that specifically talks about these things. If you're a beginner, because I guess there are videos about it probably and courses and all this stuff, but they don't give you the names. Let's say there's no video or a thing like that that tells you, hey, this is the stuff that you have to learn eventually, or that is good to learn eventually. And for beginners, that you don't necessarily are looking for this, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Then heap sorts, stuff like that. So what I'm gonna do is for each one of these, I'm gonna start with. I don't think I'm gonna do bash scripting off string probably, because I think it's better to just practice to learn. So I'm probably gonna start with JavaScript, and then React Native, Node.js. I'm gonna do all the JavaScript stuff first, and maybe the data analysis as well. That was the one that I was gonna open. But here they talk about web workers, which I never heard of, and the other ones I've heard of, but I didn't know that there are a lot more stuff that I have to know apparently, especially jQuery, because I thought I had studied jQuery, but I was confused. I misunderstood what jQuery actually is, I think. So let me open the data analysis one. The data analysis and data engineering. So there's talk about the Spearman rank correlation, which I never heard of. How to sum values of a data frame column to a specific value is reached. This one I know, but I didn't feel like it was like it wasn't as efficient as I wanted it to be. And I think maybe Kaggle competitions are gonna be make me better at this of just using these methods and cleaning the data frames. But honestly, I just hate this type of stuff, and unfortunately, most of the tasks for getting a job and stuff like that are gonna involve that. But I think it's really stupid that you have to know all these methods and all this stuff like that. I really hate this type of thinking because I think it doesn't fucking matter what methods you use or memorizing this bullshit. Is more about for me understanding the systems and principles, first principles in physical relationships and mathematics, and all the other rest of stuff is just names and fancy stuff, like the names of those algorithms. It feels like it's just a waste of time and it doesn't matter that much. But at the same time, I get it why it has to be that way because that's how we work. We compress things into concepts and that's how we communicate. But yeah, that's one of the things I have to work on because I don't pay attention to all this bullshit. Like I don't want to know what's the spearman or whatever. And there's a lot of stuff that I do actually know, but I just don't know the name of it. I think binary tree search is something like that, where just by the name, I think I have no idea what this is. But then when I went to look up what is actually, then I know that actually I definitely know what this is. I just don't know the name of it because I don't want to concern myself for reserve mental space for this type of bullshit. With all these fancy words and stuff like that. Then I also feel like I have to study more SQL because it's very there's a bunch of different tasks that ask about it, and even though it's very simple and easy, uh, it's probably one skill that goes across everything else. So it's probably really important to master that. And these different types of database, which I never heard of. This was the data engineering task, the Kafka Spark. Apparently, I think all of these are ways to store data. And yeah, so that's probably. So I think I'm going to study JavaScript first and then the other ones on data science. But going back to this stuff here. So what I did here is pretty much just add a bunch of stuff, a bunch of different stuff. Now I'm starting to understand a little bit better of how it works. Essentially, you can get code objects or the stack frame from this function, and then you can use the stack frame to get other extra information. So that's what I'm trying to do now. I created a couple of graphs here out of this data frame. So this is the other version of the first script that I did. And I just added a bunch of all the methods pretty much that I could find on the spec page of the documentation of Python to put as extra things I'm gonna put it on the data frame. And then I was trying to run this and I was getting some problems because of the local variables list, frame locus list, because there was an object there that was called zip importer, and then when you try to save that in pandas, it gives you an error. So once I removed that, I could do it, but then I was researching more stuff and I realized that because what I realized is that what I'm trying to get is not necessarily what I'm doing here, because I want to get arguments and classes and objects because I want to be able to see what is invisible in the library through the script visualization, because that's the hardest part. So I want to be able to use this as a complementary tool to the visual stuff that I actually have access to. So when I'm looking at a class that has, for example, get items as a method, I want to be able to see in the script visualization what's the get item referring to. So I can create the connection and the link between files. And I was thinking about how I'm going to actually do that. And the stuff that I'm getting is just the stuff related to the frame, which is the stack frame, the functions, and then you can have access to all this other stuff. And then I started to think that if I want to get access to the stuff that I want to get access to, I can't do this directly through the stack frame, because the stack frame is going to return just the objects of the function itself and not necessarily the arguments. And then I started thinking about all of these different code objects and stack frame things here. And I realized that these frame globals and the frame locals give you the namespace containing all of the variables for that. All the variables for the namespace. The globals gives you the globals, obviously, and the locals gives you the locals. So in each frame, you're gonna have access to both of these namespaces. And then, so now I think that the best way is probably what I was trying to do is to get the access for the stuff that I want to through these frame globals and through these frame locals. So I thought about creating a function that manipulates these things so I can get the information that I want out of them. But I was doing on this file after I already got them on the data frame. And then I found a way to parse, because I was getting a string object here, a string actually. And I managed to do this if it was a string, but then once I run this here, it said it was an object instead of a string. So now I'm trying to figure out how to extract the information through the object instead. I'll be right back. I'll go to the bathroom. Yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at right now. And I think that, yeah, the problem here is that I don't really understand what this object is really. So essentially, I want to get the name, doc, and name doc file and origin attributes, which are the ones that I saw through here that might contain some interesting information. The whole goal is to get whatever I can't get through directly visualizing the script through the file. But also, not only that, I need to also capture that in I need to also capture the link between the files and the other stuff. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to follow in the script visualization and stuff that I'm trying to follow. Yeah, so here name is going to be the name of the file, I guess. Doc might contain some interesting stuff. I'm not sure. Then origin talks about the origin, and file talks about the file. And there's other stuff that I'm not sure if it's the loader was the one that was giving problem because of the zip stuff. So I can't get that one. Cached, I'm not sure. And then built-in says a bunch of stuff, but it's mostly redundant, so I don't think it's that important. Especially when I'm trying to analyze libraries. Other libraries, it's probably just gonna crowd the graph, which is not good. So I decided to not get information about it. I looked up on Stack Overflow some people about how to retrieve classes from these global and local namespaces, and I got some scripts, but when I tried to implement them, it wasn't working. And there was some scripts that talked about being able to implement that just when the class has a self attribute, and then the script that gets through the self. But when I tried to implement it, it didn't work here for my case. So yeah, the rest is just building stuff. So that's not the only way, obviously, of getting information, and I already did some ways. And apparently it is better than the thing is I was doing before. This is one of the ways where I can see the code object. But I still want to think about a way that I can actually transform these code objects into stuff that is more understandable. But I think this is really understandable. I mean, it's not really understandable, but it's not impossible to understand. So, it's less the init method here than here. But I don't think that's exactly what I want quite yet. But it's still an improvement on the previous ones, because now I'm not only getting the function, I'm getting what's being activated inside the function, which is good to know. So you can see here that the init on all of them, then adds node, and then init again, init, add edge here, and then get nodes here. So it's a little bit more interesting. You can see the exact function that is being activated, or the object that is being activated. And the graph itself is a little bit different than the other one as well. Yeah, code object new. but I still think this is not quite what I want. So this is the thing. Here is showing me object, and now it's showing me all this stuff. So what I was thinking before is that this is a nested, is a list that contains an object, but when I try to access these properties, these keys of the, maybe I should do keys here. That will tell me if it's an object or not. And that might be the way actually. With the objects.keys, and then it gives me the keys. I loop through that, and then I do a condition based on the stuff that I want. But then the problem is that this origin is not equal, is an equal to. So here's a tuple actually. Oh, so here. Oh, so this is part of the spec. So origin is a part of the spec. So I have to think about how do I get that without getting the other stuff. Because I don't want these loaders and everything. Wait, is that correct? Oh, actually, it doesn't end there. Oh no, it ends in the module spec here. Yes, it's part of the spec, module spec. And this also has name here. The question is how I'm gonna get. Yeah, if it's always a tuple of 3, then I can get by the index 0 and 2. And then I don't need name, I just need this spec. Okay. And I'm gonna have to put them in a try except block because it doesn't work, obviously. I don't want to break the whole thing. Yeah, so then there's file. Yeah, so it's spec, doc, and file that I want. And I'm not gonna get the name then. See if this works. Oh, okay, so it gives me this stuff. So now I'm gonna loop through this. And I'm gonna print item. Then I'm gonna just erase this. Then I'm gonna do if item equals one of these, the ones that I want, then I'm gonna print another thing. So I have to think about how I'm gonna get the object itself. Maybe we can just access directly. But the weird thing is that trying to access directly wasn't working on the. It's maybe because these are strings and not. But yeah, I don't think that's the case. But we'll see. Yeah, that's the thing that's weird. Because this just gives me name and environment. It doesn't give me the other ones. And it should give me the list of the ones that I want, which is weird. It's also giving me a bunch of them. Maybe it's because it's giving me the first one out of all the objects. That's probably what's happening here. Yeah, I think if I take this off, it's gonna give me the other ones, and then a bunch of times. And I'm not sure how to do this without using this nested list. Yeah, now it gives me all the attributes. Yeah, so because it's not breaking on the first loop, it was giving me just the first one out of for all of the objects in the frame global list. There are a lot of ones currently. So I think the most difficult one is obviously gonna be to access this spec, the origin in spec. So I'm gonna do that one first. I can't retrieve the spec entirely because of the loader stuff there. It's gonna break the script later. God damn, there's a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna do if item equals spec, then I print item. And the thing is, I'm gonna have to access this spec. Maybe we can also try. Oh, item.spec is not gonna work. Maybe I can try object spec. Because I have to access this somehow. If this works, then I'm gonna do the index here and try to see if that works. To get the stuff that I want. I'm not accessing the item directly here because the item is spec, obviously, so that doesn't make sense to make item.spec. I have to access the object property. Yeah, that's the problem. Dict object has no attribute spec. If I change here, it's not going to change anything, but I just want to see anyways. So that's what's weird to me. Has no attribute spec. Because when I'm accessing through here, it seems that it has. But maybe it's not what I think it is. I think that's the was the part that was stuck before. Just understanding how to get access to these things. Because here it seems like it is an object. Oh, but I think this is the object itself. That's why it doesn't work. Maybe or not. Yeah, maybe if I do it like this instead. Yeah, now it works. Nice. So I'm obviously not gonna print this. So since this already works, I'm gonna test this one. I'll test this one and then the second index, just see if the first one should give me name and the second should give me the origin. And then I'm gonna do this separately from the. Oh, maybe I can do it on the same line. Just use the OR condition. I create the OR and the variables that I want. And then I append them to the list as a tuple. Because I don't want to screw up the data frame creation. So I can't use a list. And because I just want to visualize them, then I think it's fine to put in a tuple. So that each line of the data frame has the corresponding things that I want out of the globals and locals. And if it works, then I'm going to put this on a function and I'm going to call this function every time I'm passing the frame globals. I'm passing something. Yeah, maybe I should put before the frame globals list. I think I can pause this. Got the point. By this one. Module spec object has no, so I forgot that there's module spec before this. Because module spec is the one that has the tuple. Let's see now. Module spec object is not subscriptable. So let me see here if I do this. Yeah, this is gonna be a problem. Because I have to loop through this. I don't understand what this actually is also. Is a problem. Is it a tuple? Why does it have the name? Maybe it's a function. think I'm gonna search what is module spec. String for the food. I have to search how to access properties of this. Or maybe if I just do it by the name itself that I want. I'll just back. But I feel like it's not gonna work. There's name. Name on the origin. It's probably not gonna work, but doesn't hurt to try. I want to avoid doing an extra loop to get there. It's not subscriptable. No, it is using spec.loader. So how does this work? Oh, maybe if I do it directly. The problem is that I can't access through the spec thing there. The way that they are doing. Because then it gives me the error. Oh, so this works. Nice. So let me try to do this with origin. Hopefully it works. Nice. And so I'm getting what I want out of this. Then I'm gonna put the OR statement here. This, or this, or this. Then here's gonna be doc. Wow. Oh yeah, I'm not doing names, so I can take this off. If item equals spec, or item equals doc, or item equals file. I'm gonna try this. And I'm gonna accept. Now I don't know what type of error it is, but I think I'm gonna put key error. Because on the Stack Overflow stuff that I was seeing, they were using this type of error for getting the class of the globals. So I'm gonna try this one. So here, what stuff do I want? Put doc equals. Maybe I should change the name of this value as well because it's kind of confusing. So what else can I put? I'm gonna do index here, and then I'm gonna think about something else to use as the name. So let me think. I usually end up using the same names for each loop, so it gets confusing. I want to make sure I'm putting something that I'm probably not gonna use on the other ones, so it's clear that it comes from this. So maybe I should put just glob here. And then I'm gonna put local. Oh, but local is a built-in function. If I put globals, yeah, but I'm not sure. Yeah, this is gonna built-in name globals. Yeah, so that's probably. So I'm gonna leave it gl. It doesn't really matter that much anyway. Yeah, so this is gonna be the doc. Then file, file. Then the name is gonna be this. And the origin is gonna be this. I can erase this. Then I'm gonna make the tuple containing all of them. I'm gonna append that to the. Oh, but the thing is, maybe I should return this. Yeah, I'm gonna do it as a function. I think I'm gonna erase this stuff because I'm not gonna use it. So def convert locals and globals. Uh, list name here. I put list name. I'm gonna call this with frame globals list. So here I'm getting a mistake. I'm not sure why. Except or finally expected. So maybe it didn't. Oh, here. That's the problem. Yeah, then I'm gonna return this. But the thing is, I have to think about whether or not I'm gonna do this. how these iterations are gonna work for the thing. I think if I put on this, it's gonna only return after the thing is over. The loop is over. No, but then actually, yeah, this is a problem because maybe it should be returning the list. I created a new list here because I need to append. I'm essentially converting the list that I'm passing here into this format instead. Yeah, so this is what I'm gonna do. Then I'm gonna make new list dot append. And then I'm gonna do doc file name origin, and then I'm gonna return new list here. So this should give me file name from outer scope. So I think I already used this one, but maybe not. Okay, so this works. And the new lines. And now I'm gonna print new globals, and I'm gonna see if it works. Then I'm gonna test with the locals. If it works, I'm gonna put this function after it. Maybe putting the function inside of this stack is kind of a waste because I'm gonna be calling it each time with only one item, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think it's probably better to put outside of it. Great, apparently it works. Oh, maybe the other thing that I didn't think about is actually putting the thing that I'm not sure about is if I put this either as an object or a list. A list, I'm sure that's not gonna work on the data frame, but an object I'm not really sure about. And I don't usually use tuples, so I'm not sure how to deal with them. But I want to specify which what each one of them is, so it's just clear. So maybe I can use the same stuff. Yeah, but now it doesn't work. I don't think it's gonna work. So I don't think I can do key value pairs for tuples. Maybe it doesn't matter because it's kind of intuitive anyway to understand. I think I'm gonna switch the places as well. Put the name first, doc after the. Yeah, I think that might be better. And maybe file name in origin is redundant because it's probably the same information. Each time. Oh no, it's slightly different. Yeah, it's slightly different, so I think it's at least in the beginning. The beginning is probably worth it, sure. Leave it there until I've used this enough times to see if it makes a difference or not to have it. Yeah, I think the name is actually redundant now that I'm looking at it. Because it's just the module and the folder and the file. But it's pretty much the same thing as the file name. So I think I'm gonna drop the name from this. But the thing is, I'm not even sure if that's what I want actually. Maybe for the locals, it will give me what I want. Yeah, I'm gonna put the doc at the end. Put name here. Because that makes more sense to me. If the name is still redundant, I'm gonna take the name out and leave just file name, origin, and doc. And now I'm gonna test with the locals to see. So this is just essentially one of the things that I can get from that. And I have to think about, because this was what I was thinking about before, and I think it's the wrong approach. Also, it's just giving me one. Also, it's giving me multiples, but just putting, not pretty printing them. So what I was thinking before is directly accessing the stuff that I can, the code objects in the frames like I did here. But what's probably better to do is to think about the ways to combine this information to get specifically what I want out of it. But that's difficult to do because you have to understand how the code's being compiled into C and then eventually assembly. To understand how things are organized. Not sure if compile is the right word, because Python is interpreted, not compiled. Not really sure what's the correct way to describe. Yeah, but I have the file name twice there. File name twice. File name twice. So it looks like it's redundant, actually. Yeah, I think it's safe to exclude the name. Oh no, it's file name and origin that are the same. But in the globals, it's not. Hmm. So I have to think about this. The name seems to be redundant. The question is, do I keep? I don't want to take file name out because that shows the path and it's simpler to think about it. Then if I just leave this name here, I have to think about how to get to the file. But they seem to be different for locals and globals. Which one to keep? Let me take the name out. Do globals again. Yeah, it just seems like it's the same information, both of them. So I'm gonna take that out. So I think the file name is probably more resilient because it's easier to access. So I'm gonna keep that one. And then I don't even need the spec, I think, after all. Oh, actually, yeah, I need the doc and the file name. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do, I think. Then I can take this off. Then I'm gonna do the locals here and pass the locals list. And now I think, yeah, that's done. So I'm gonna leave it like this because I think it's better to call the function after the loop is done there. After I have all the variables already. This is item true, item true. I think we're just gonna make this items one actually. So before I do that, here's gonna be new globals. Here's gonna be new locals. And then if this works, then we can just erase the rest of the stuff that I copied here just to test different things. And then I'm gonna think about different ways to create the graph so I can extract the information that I want. So hopefully it works. Let's see. Oh, and this, if you're gonna do this, it can be dangerous because I tried doing this with a string, converting everything into a string, all the code objects, and then I was getting a mistake there. Not getting a mistake, but my computer froze because I think there are some portions of the code objects that are binary code, and then maybe something happens when you try to convert them into string or something in the operational system. So you do have to be careful with this. And then I did a version of this on the VM to test the things on the VM first before I tried it to test it here again. So it seems like it's working. So I'm gonna do this here, and I'm gonna transform these into all items. And then I'm gonna erase this stuff here. Now I think it's complete finally. And the thing is, if this doesn't work, then the way that I'm doing things here doesn't give me what I want, then I'm gonna have to think about again how to change the stuff that I'm getting out of the stack trace thing to get what I actually want out of the scripts. Now it should be good. So now I'm gonna go here, which is the graph that I was creating. Or no, this was another stuff. Oh, this was just for testing the globals and locals. So where was I doing the graph? Maybe we should separate them also. The graphs from the other stuff to different folders so it's more organized. Yeah, but I think this was just another file that I created to test things on the trying to extract things from the globals and locals, right? So I'm probably gonna close this. And this was the graph that I was using probably. Frame globals, and this doesn't have frame locals. This was the one that I was giving me problems. So I think I can do this. Then here I was testing a bunch of different ones to see which ones are good. So maybe if I just do with globals and locals each time to see what it gives me. Just the globals and locals stuff. The thing is, I'm not sure if I'm getting the variables there. I'm just getting the name and the doc. So I think what's most likely gonna happen is that I'm gonna have to think about different ways to try to access the stuff that I want to. Out of this stack frame. I'm gonna do the locals first. And the stuff that I was talking about. Is here the trace thing only gives you this access to this directly. And I'm trying to get stuff out of this, which doesn't work. So you have to manipulate the frame and the code objects in order to get access to the classes. And the other ones that I got there are just these ones that I directly copied. And I think this free vars was the one that I did here, I think. And it was interesting. Couple of names of free variables reference via a function's closure. So this one seems interesting. This also seems interesting. The thing is, I don't know exactly how to describe what I want. That's the problem. I have to figure out what does that mean. To I think it's variables and arguments that I'm trying to get. Stuff that is not directly accessible to just reading the code. I think it's mainly arguments and variables that got passed depending on the execution of the script. Yeah, and this is the tough from getting things out of the frame. This might be interesting to try as well. I think I just have to try a bunch of them and see which ones are gonna be the most effective. And the thing is, I only need to get it right once, and after that, then I'm gonna be able to use this forever for all the other scripts. So I think it's worth it. I was also getting this problem before. Let's see how I save. It's because some of them have no values. But I think I was dealing with this before here. Few and I. But it still shows up this. Even after I do this method in a other file and then save it again, it still gives me this warning. I'm not sure why. Scholar graph. And doesn't give me anything. So let me print edge data here. Well, maybe it's because this doesn't exist. I'm gonna take this filter off if I see that edge data looks normal. Yeah, it's probably this the problem because there is not strings, it's tuples. That's the thing. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna comment this out. Now it should probably at least give me something. And this was the stuff that I tried from class, but it didn't work. You get class out of the frame. And then I was trying to understand the get item stuff as well, which I still don't understand fully. Apparently it didn't work. So I don't know what's going on. It has 1 million. So what's going on here? Oh, I'm using the list file name. That's what's going on. So scratch what I was doing before. I'm gonna comment this out, and then I'm gonna do this here. Just so I don't have to change a bunch of stuff to test this. It's probably gonna give me a very confusing graph because of the amount of things that exist there. The 1 million nodes, almost 2 billion nodes. It's just absurd. So then, if it works, I'm gonna have to think about a ways to clear some of the nodes out, just so I can get the ones that might be useful. Yeah, now I think it's gonna work because it's taking more time. Yeah, but from this one, I can already see that the first thing that gets activated is the new data environment from Jinja after it creates the nodes. Then spontaneous environment. I think I need to change the name of this graph because I'm not sure if this is the globals. I got this from globals. Yeah, so something is obviously not correct. Or maybe it is, but it's just that there's a bunch of them, but they are all the same because it gets repeated over and over again. That might be what's going on here. So let's see. Expressions. Then pandas score computation. This is stuff from pandas. The num expression. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is correct. Probably not. And this doesn't have any stuff. So what's going on here? This is supposed to be the locals frame, which you would think that has more information about the specifics of the things. So I'm not sure what's going on. Yeah, maybe if I loop through this and then append through the list instead. Yeah, if I loop through it, each one's gonna be a tuple. Then I'm gonna have to make a nested list. But then the issue, maybe I can create a string actually. Yeah, I think that's better. I transform each tuple into a string, looping through this. Because otherwise I create extra nodes that don't matter that much. Not that they don't matter, but that they should be on the same node. So this is taking a lot longer. I think what I'm gonna do as well is separate them. Because I'm gonna do more types of graphs, so it's probably better to separate them into a file. Because this is starting to get confusing here. Because I have some scripts that are for the thing. But then the issue is that the way that I did this, it's pretty bad with the file paths. Maybe another thing that I have to fix. Yeah, maybe I don't need to change this actually, because it's not gonna change regardless of where this script is located, but maybe it does change actually. But I don't think it should, because these are paths relative to the root of the project itself. So I don't think it's gonna break if I put them to a folder. I think I'm gonna do that later. Okay, so this at least has more information than the locals. But extremely hard to read, and some of them are very long. So let's see. I think I should increase the size of the first one as well. But I'm not sure if I increase the size of the first one. I'm gonna increase the size of a bunch of them because of the way that I did the graph. But so the first should be the green one. It's blue. Maybe it has more connections, that's why it's not showing up. Oh no, it's here. So this is the first one. So color graph, none. And then it goes through here. This has a gigantic name. Well, as routines for NT or POSIX depending on what system. This exports all functions from pros. Yeah, so I should put this into a bunch of lines as well. I'm not sure I'm gonna do that. Whenever it says /n here, should be a new line. Oh, so when I'm transforming this into a string, I should do it in a way that whenever it finds /n, takes out of the string. That seems like it will be hard to do. String representing the current directory. So basically, just the description of the thing. So from this, for sure, is this one. Yeah, this is still difficult to understand. It's difficult because I'm not relating it to. Yeah, I should have though. It should be. I'm not relating to the execution of the script, but it should have some, at least some type of. But the issue is because the node, since a bunch of nodes are the same, then it loses the kind of like the flow of the scripting. Because I have to figure out a way. Maybe I can change the name actually. That's probably the best one. Best thing to do. Is I figure out a way to make them all in a sequence, and I think the easiest way to do that is by just putting an index on them. So that is a straight line, or they are connected sequentially instead of like this. So I don't get lost in what step it is. Yeah, but here it's kind of interesting because now I'm getting classes for managing templates in their runtime and compile time. I'm getting the description, which is the documentation of each thing. But I'm not sure if this is gonna be enough as well. File nodes, compile nodes from the parser into Python code. Implements Jinja Python combination lexer. It's just some preprocessing. If it's filters out invalid operators. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's not exactly what I want still. So I'm gonna make this happen. Uh, this is just to make the graph sequential, but I'm also gonna think about different ways that I can capture information that will get me actually what I want. I think what I want is actually arguments. So probably that's what I'm gonna search for. How to keep track of arguments and variables through stack frames in Python. So it's gonna be, actually I'm gonna do as string formatting because it's gonna be better. And just the key and then item. So each one of them has a different number, which you're just gonna make them unique when building the nodes. And then list file name, dot append, results. Oh, but the thing is, if I do it like this, yeah, so this should probably be inside of the loop instead here, because I want it to be clean each time. So each one of them is going to be a string with the key outside and the item. Combination of them. So the first one is going to be 0, 1, 2, followed by 0, then the name, 1, etc. Then I'm going to append this after it does this, and then it's going to go to the next tuple. That's what I'm expecting at least. And this, in my mind, should create a sequential graph where each node represents a line in the execution of this script. And it's not going to make the nodes be the way that they were before because they're going to follow a line instead. So I think I'm gonna search that already instead of waiting there. How to get arguments and variables through stack frames in Python. What I want to do is quite doable in a clean way in Python. Here are a few nested functions that call each other. Or I want to call something. There's no end, in my opinion. Should be no elegant way of implementing reach since that introduces. Yeah, I don't know what's this about. Make scope accessible from do something. Don't have to reach. Yeah, it's probably gonna be through the globals and locals, but the issue is that I don't see when I print that locals and when I print the globals, I don't see this stuff they are talking about in the actual. Maybe it's somewhere in the built-ins portion, but I don't think I saw the arguments of functions. Maybe I can get somewhere to I can find some article or even Stack Overflow, someone talking about what's the name that I should look for, the key in the globals. I think it should be possible to get it through the stack frame. Just not sure how. Because even the stack frame is supposed to be, from my understanding, for functions. Is each frame is a function execution, but the functions need to keep track of the scopes and namespaces. So it should be possible to track the flow of information from one to the other. The most annoying thing when you start to get good at, you start understanding the basic stuff is that there's just a bunch of things that are kind of a waste of time because they're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff that you already know. So start to cut through the basic stuff. Yeah, I also don't understand the events really well with the trace thing. Because you have the call, the return, the other ones. But I'm not sure how to access information based on them. And they're not gonna talk about this. Just the basic stuff here. Yeah, this is probably gonna take a while because it's probably gonna create almost 2 million nodes, I think. Hopefully it doesn't break because of memory. I can also put a filter there eventually as well to get only the nodes that have the string pattern that I want. So how can I search for this in a way that I'm not just gonna get answers for how to implement stuff? Maybe I should search for understanding names, the namespace. I think I'm gonna search for all information accessible. Not sure how to write that. Through my stack frame. What about what stack frames cost original? Let's go through this. try to put more. This is get recursion limit. Runtime error. Just Python version. Stack Overflow. Auto refers to everything above us. Clearly the direction up in the call stack. So in RG, the blah blah blah. Maybe I should just try to create a bunch of scripts. I can use the file that I created there for that. And just try a bunch of different combinations of them. Just see what I can get. Let me read this thing. That might be better actually. Because it might be hard to find people talking about this. So free vars, tuple of names of free variables referenced via a function's closure. I don't understand what function's closure is really well. A function that is defined inside another function is known as a nested function. Parsing what a closure is, we have to first understand what nested functions or no local variables are. A closure is a functional object that remembers values in enclosing scopes even if they are not present in memory. Function object that remembers values in enclosing scopes even if they are not present in memory. Interesting. It is a record that stores a function together with an environment. A mapping associating each free variable of the function, variables that are used locally but defined in an enclosing scope, with the value of or reference to which the name was bound when the closure was created. A closure, unlike a plain function, allows the function to access those captured variables through the closure's copies of their values or references, even when the function is invoked outside their scope. So I think this might be what I'm actually looking for. These cell vars and the free vars. I think I'm gonna do, I was doing this before, but I'm gonna do it, I wasn't doing it this way, where I separate them into unique nodes. Yeah, this was what I was doing here to get the other graph there that I saved for this one. So I think after I run this, I'm gonna change the name and I'm gonna rewrite this graph to be here with this name, and then on this cell vars graph, I'm gonna run this thing down below that I did here. And yeah, but for some reason, oh, it's probably, this was probably working because of the function name here that I'm adding to this. So I think what I'm gonna do is just do the same thing that I was doing up here for frame globals, but for code cell vars instead, and not use the function name, just so I can get all the information that exists on this code cell vars. And then if it's too much or too confusing, then I can do this thing here, but filter it through this after. Yeah, I think that's probably gonna be the best thing to do. And I think those two are probably the most important ones. Maybe these var names as well, tuple of names. But I remember trying to do this with this here, and I got a bunch of empty strings for several of the lines, so I'm not sure if this is gonna work. But I think I have to try with this and the code free vars and the cell vars. Seem to be the most important ones for getting what I want. And then obviously if one of them, I find that one of them contains the information that is not visible in the script, then I'm gonna associate them with the file name or the function name. so I can follow along the execution of the script. And maybe I can create a new line then. I can make this, then instead of making the plus this, like this, I can put a new line here instead. But I'm not sure if that's gonna work on the visualization of the node, but we'll see. I'll be right back. Yeah, so this looks like it's gonna take a while to finish. There's too many notes. What I was thinking about as well is here actually. I should do this condition here. If result different than empty string, then I append. Because I don't want empty nodes on the graph. And the way that I did this, I also did these loops here to make sure that all the lists are the same length, because when I wasn't doing like this, some of them were bigger than, some of the lists were bigger than the other ones. So the data frame couldn't be created here. So I just added the extra amount that from the biggest one to the ones that are smaller. I just appended a bunch of empty strings just to make it work. And what I'm thinking about now is actually I'm going to create a different file for this, different folder for the scripts, for the graph, and I'm going to create a different file for this graph. And then I'm going to erase this stuff. Yeah, I think that another thing that I was thinking about is that tomorrow I'm going to start doing the routine I was doing before, which is doing these streams after I wake up every day, or almost every day. And I think I'm gonna separate them. Instead of doing one thing at a time, I'm gonna separate, I think, around 2 hours a day for this project with the script visualization stuff and the Jinja thing. And then the other 2 hours, I'm gonna go through the list of subjects here from the site. I think that's gonna be better than doing one after the other, because that way I can already start learning the things that I'm gonna use later while I do the visualization stuff. So I'm thinking about stopping this right now, this script, and because I'm gonna have to run this again if I'm gonna do it the way that I'm thinking about doing. It's not Python file. And then here I'm gonna create a new file. Lobos. Graph. And then I'm gonna copy this stuff here. And I'm gonna erase this part from here. I think I can erase this from here as well. So I'm gonna stop the execution of this. And I'm gonna run this instead to see, one, if it breaks, because I put it on another directory, and just to separate them. Yeah, no such file. So it's not working. So what I think I'm gonna do is, oh, I also forgot that I have to change the, I have to figure out a way to change the folder tree visualization stuff as well to make it better eventually. Yeah, but that's, I'm probably gonna leave that for later. And here I'm gonna use OS current directory. So let's search for that. Not problem with. So maybe this one should be the cleanest. I'm importing OS already. Not sure if this is the best way to do it, but yeah, but the thing is, I don't necessarily want. Yeah, I think let's see if this works. I want to print this, just see what it's giving me. And if it works, then I'm just gonna copy this into every file. Yeah, so it's not working, and it's giving me this instead. So root directory is this. I should probably make it like this. Yeah, but I don't want the OS graph here. The graph scripts. That's the thing. This is gonna give me the path containing the file name. Maybe I should try it anyway. Yeah, it just gives me the. I don't want this file name here. That's a problem. So they recommend creating a different file on the root called settings, and then doing like this. Which is definitely smart. So that's probably what I'm gonna do actually. It seems more resilient as well. Yeah, then here goes the name of the folder and subfolder. I think I'm gonna do this actually. Oh, but then I have to put the path in the settings. I'm not sure if I like it that much. Because I don't think it, maybe if I was doing a project to put on GitHub or something like that, then I would do this, but I don't think it's necessary for this thing. And this is gonna give me the same stuff. Yeah, so maybe there isn't a way to get the path of the parents. OS path their name. I'm gonna test this with, let's see. It doesn't give me anything. And that's the problem. I think I might have to do the settings stuff. Yeah, it's probably not. It's probably no way to. Unless I create a different file on the parent folder there. I think I'll do this stuff later, and I'm just gonna change manually here. Just for now, just so I can run here on this. Because I wanna run this one. Let's see. Go out here. Then I'll change it later. Oh yeah, I need to change the name of the thing. So now I have to add here script visualizing, probably. I think I'll eventually end up doing the settings thing that the guy recommended. It's because it seems like a more professional way to do it. Doesn't seem it is a more professional way to do it. But I just run this and see what happens before I end the stream. So let me see if this works. So I created this. It's not what I want. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave the file there. I'll change this later. This is probably this. Oh, take this file and put in the parents again. Then off stream I will do the settings stuff, and then I'll put all the graphs inside of the other folder there that I created for the graphs. Or maybe I'll do it in stream tomorrow. I'm not sure, because I have other stuff to do off stream. Yeah, now it seems like it's gonna work. It's probably gonna take some time though. So while it does that, I'm gonna think about. I think I can just copy the stuff that I did there, but for cell vars here, instead of using this edge thing. Which is this. Because they're all gonna be tuples. So this should work. We have our names tuples, prevar tuple names. So our tuples. Yeah, so I think the ones that I will actually end up using is the cell vars, prevars, and var names. I just don't want to do them on the same graph because then I think it's gonna get too crowded, the description of each node. That's why I'm doing them separately. And I think I'm gonna create a different graph script for each one. Once I put them all on the same file there. Same file, same folder, the graph scripts. And then outside of here, I'm just gonna leave the stack frame visualization stuff. But the thing is, I'm gonna have to change the path for all of them. Yeah, but it's not a problem because after I do it the first time, then all the other ones that I add are gonna work. Yeah, and then for the scripts, it's not necessary to specify any file paths, so it's just the graphs and the data frames. Actually, just the graph scripts that have the files for data frames and scripts. Because they're reading the data frames CSV and creating the graph. Inside of here. Yeah, if I want to add function name or file name, then I can do it. Just change the name here from code salvar to list file name, and then change these ones for edge data, or vice versa. Change this. It's probably easier to just change this to edge data and this to list file name. And I can change the names here and add them later. Maybe I should be doing the settings thing right now because this is probably gonna take a while. But I don't feel like doing that. It's just annoying. Maybe we should also think about a way to make this better instead of having to change. But the thing is, I'm gonna have to change the name anyway each time around. But maybe to make it more clear so I don't get confused and accidentally run a different graph with a different name. Because it happens sometimes where I'm using a different CSV, I want to get a different graph. Oh, actually, it doesn't happen because. But I remember one time I think I got the name wrong and then I was confused there. I think it was because it was different on the net show. So I ended up saving a different graph. I used one name and saved the graph for another one. I think it can be slightly confusing, this file name here. I think I can delete this stuff. I was using before to organize. I have to think if eventually I'm gonna want to do different folders for graph scripts. If I build a lot of them, that's also another thing that I have to do, I think. Because initially I created 3 different graphs, one for connecting the file names and the function, the other for execution flow, and then the other for file names as well. So I had just 3 types initially, but now I'm gonna have several different ways of connecting. So I can either do them create a unique name for each script, depending on the visualization I want. Or I can create different subfolders inside of this folder and then separate them by categories, like file names. But I think the better way is probably to do a unique name for each one. Because they're all gonna be different if I separate by scripts. So there isn't enough common things among them to create one folder and put them all on the same category. I think I can close this for now. And I'm also probably have to redo all the ones that I did so far, so I don't get confused because the data frames are going to be different. So I probably should run all of them through the vs2, or maybe create a different folder for them for that. Yeah, but I don't think it makes sense. I think I'm not going to use the old one that I was using before because this visualizer one, because it's the same thing as the vs2, but it has less information for each frame. So I don't think it makes sense to use this anymore. Now I have to remember where the settings thing was. I think it was just settings, then create the OS absolute path to that file, and then specify each name of the directories that I want based on that settings. But one thing I can do actually is stop this, and I'm gonna run this one first, because this one is probably, hopefully, gonna be smaller than the other one. So if this one loads, I can study this one while the other one runs. Didn't think about that. Yeah, so it's a different name. Or maybe this is gonna take a long time as well because I'm creating a unique node for each one. Oh, so it was fast. Hopefully created something though. It should be this one. So if I got something, huh, nice. Yeah, the thing is they're all the same now. Because they're all gonna have one connection because each one is unique. So I have to think about different ways to color them. Maybe I can do it based on the string stuff, based on the string patterns. That's gonna be better to follow them. So depending on the module, each one has a different color. And then I can jump to the modules that I want based on the mode that I'm running. So now I'm gonna run this again. This is probably the first. No, this is the first. Ah, great. So not getting any relevant information. So what is this? Cell vars. Tuple of names of cell variables referenced by containing scopes. Hmm, that's strange. I'm not sure if it's because of the way that I'm doing the script or if that's the actual names that these stars there when it's running through the frame. So an easy way to figure this out is just to print the list. Yeah, but the list is gonna have the stuff that I already have there, so probably printing gonna print value. Print value here. And maybe printing item as well. Print value first and item. So it's not printing anything, which is interesting. It is printing a bunch of stuff, but it's not showing anything here. So it means that this value is not anything relevant. Let me print code solvers. Yeah, now it shows me. Yeah, but it's a bunch. Yeah, so that was the thing that was the problem before, I think. Because I'm pretty sure that I tested this out, I think, with this one. But apparently it's not getting any information for the cell vars when it runs the trace stuff. So all of them are empty. So I think I'm gonna try with the other ones, obviously. So yeah, this is cell vars. So you can try var names and free vars. So free vars first. I'm gonna print value. If it works, I'm obviously gonna change the name of the graph to represent whatever I'm putting here. It's weird that it's not showing anything. I'm not sure if I'm making something, if I'm doing something wrong when I'm tracing. Yeah, here is not gonna work as well. Oh, here at least has some information. Or if it's just because it's uh it's not supposed to have a bunch of information when you trace it. This one probably has something at least. But maybe it's something that I'm doing wrong when I'm tracing. Maybe I can run some other function to parse that into something that is understandable. Either that or I can't gain access to that through the frame, which is the worst case scenario. Because then that would mean that I can't visualize the stuff that I want to through this. Yeah, so this is a bunch of nodes. First one is here. Yeah, this is just a bunch of numbers. Like the other one. So maybe these are locations in memory or something like that, but it doesn't feel like it to me because they don't have the hexadecimal pattern, and they're obviously not zeros and ones. So not sure what's going on here. I think it might be just a bunch of addresses in memory. That's the thing. The thing is that it doesn't say anything about this here. Just says tuple of names of cell variables referenced by containing scopes. Reference via functions closure. I think the var names is the one that is gonna give me at least something, which was the one that I tested before. So what I suspect is happening here is that this is giving me the address in memory of each thing, and not the name of the thing. So I tested the code 3 vars. I'm gonna do this. For this one. So maybe if that is actually the case, then I can think about a way, I can figure out a way to convert this into actual names instead of the addresses, just by searching on DuckDuckGo. And then I would be able to get the names instead. Just want to see if they're all like this. Because I think I saw something that was printed there in the middle. The problem is I think it's gonna be hard to find people talking about this stuff based on previous searches that I did. Talking about besides the official documentation, which doesn't describe there, unless it has something here, but if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't. To explain what is returning, what is the format that is being returned at there. This is just referring to the inspect stuff. The other thing that I could do is use these inspect functions inside of the frame to trace, see if I can get extra information as well. Also, maybe I can use these ones actually to get what I want. But then I have to think about is the one that I think might be dangerous to do because of the conversion of bits that I talked about earlier. But maybe I can use this flag somehow to get the information that I want. A new dict will be created for the frames of locals when the code object is executed. The flag is set if there are no free or cell variables. Yeah, but it's not talking about what exactly is returning through this stuff. Yeah, so it's just gonna be a bunch of addresses, it seems like. Or a bunch of numbers that I'm not sure if are addresses. But I suspect it's probably addresses. It's the only thing that makes sense. Should be. Yeah, it's probably hexadecimal addresses in memory. And after I convert them, then I can filter this stuff or color the nodes differently based on the names that I want. At least I'm getting closer to the stuff that I actually want, which is good. And I don't lose anything that I already done, so not that worried about it. Yeah, so now I'm gonna try the var names to see if it returns anything different than the previous ones. Yeah, so this one is the one that I think it does return. It's definitely gonna return some things because of this. And it's probably returning also a bunch of addresses as well because it's not showing anything here. What does this searches suggestions? What does pull solvers in Python? Contain the name of locals, the local variables that are referenced by nested functions. Hmm. So pretty much variables of decorators, but doesn't say what exactly. So maybe I can search for how to convert an address into the name of the thing. Cover names should give you all local variables. In this case, I is actually a free variable in bar, so it is in bar's closure. The tuple containing the name, sorry, the argument is variables that are referenced by nested function. Yeah, but the thing is that it returns in the address. It's still going. God damn. This is gonna be a huge graph as well. At least it was returning some stuff in the beginning. And maybe I should do two versions, one for them sequentially, like I'm doing here, and another one for when I don't specify, when I don't differentiate them by the key here. So I can see which ones get called more often and have more connections. So I think I'm gonna put this inside of a function and then set up a flag variable based on what mode I want it to go. In the first mode, I'll put sequentially, and the second, just to see the amount of connections. And I'm also gonna sum this with the, yeah, I'm gonna do this stuff after I transform this into strings. Oh, it's probably giving me empty actually. Empty ones. Oh, but it shouldn't be because I put this stuff here. So, oh, but I'm printing the value, not the list. So maybe that's what's happening there. Uh, but this seems to be the most promising one so far, I think. Because at least I can see the name here of what is being called. Diagonals, only empty stuff. Var names. Yeah, maybe this is gonna take a long time, actually. Ah, so it gives me, that might be the problem. But I'm not understanding really well because both of these are referenced. So because it's referenced, might be uh that's 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 why it might be the address instead because it's already after it was translated. Because the program is actually referencing the address, not the actual name. Maybe I'll search for how to parse solvars into readable names. Yeah, that's the problem. Maybe if I do dot name, dot under name for each of them. Is a variable number of bytes per instruction. Each instruction consists of an OP code which indicates what operation the VM is to perform. 1 byte integer. Yeah, so what I want to do is transform this code again into something that is readable. I think I'm gonna put this on favorites because this is a very good answer by this person. And this is probably gonna take a long time. These first normal arguments, then the names of the args and keywords arguments if applicable. No, so this is exactly what I want. Top with the names of all the functions of all of the functions local variables. Yeah, but this is just the locals, so might need extra information also, including arguments. It contains first normal arguments, then the names of the args and qargs arguments, if applicable. Yeah, but only with this, I think I'm already gonna be able to capture a lot of stuff, because if you have a function that is passing an argument and is not visible through the code, just by doing that, I'm gonna be able to see what is the thing that is being passed, because it's gonna be accessible into the local scope of the other function. That makes sense. So if you have function A calling function B, and sum here, then return, and then you have function A, another, and then here you call B with another. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Then if you call A here, if then I think this is gonna capture the another from here, because even though you're passing outside of the function, it's still gonna be in the local scope of the function. So it's already more information than I was getting before. But then obviously what is gonna miss is whenever there are situations where you have globals and then you have some variables there. And then I'm not gonna capture that, but I don't think that might be that big of an issue actually. Based on the stuff that I wanna understand. These are used by loadfast in similar opcodes, which takes as an argument an index into this tuple. At runtime, the VM allocates an array of the same size to hold the values of each of these variables. The opcodes are called fast because loading here just involves an array dereference. Rather than a hash table lookup as is needed for instructions, they use code names like load global. Thus, the sequence of operations for these opcodes is load fast retrieve value of argument I. Use it to retrieve the ith element in the local variables array and push it onto the stack. Load global retrieve value of argument I uses to retrieve the ith element in call names, the name of the global variable. Oh, so here we go. We can just use call names to get the globals. Look up these names in the Python dict hash table containing the function's global variables and push the result onto the stack. These are mostly things I learned while writing the Byte-around library for assembling disassembling code objects. Yeah. I'm hoping this will help you understand how Python is executed and how to get it to perform as well as possible. Yeah, this dude knows what he's talking about. Apparently. It's a module for assembling and disassembling C Python 2.7 bytecode. It provides a representation of bytecode that is easier to modify, create, and inspect than C Python's internal representation and functionality. We're going back and forth between these representations C Python code objects. Example of how to create code. It still doesn't answer the question though of how to go from that to the name again. Because I can't see a way to get the information before it's translated into bytecode. I only know how to access through this table, which is after the fact that it's already translated into the address. So it would be good to, yeah, know how to get this and then transform it into the name back again from the address. So maybe I'll make a comment here. I think it's call names. Yeah. get name for global variables. I think I'm gonna stop this stream here because it's probably gonna take a very long time to run this stuff. And then I'll continue to do this tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So I'll probably come back tomorrow and continue to do this stuff. Hopefully the graphs will work out and then I can go through them tomorrow and play around with them. Maybe I'll do this off stream because if every time we're gonna run it's gonna take this long, then I should probably get to the final format that I want the graphs to be in before I study through them on stream. Or maybe I can just load them and yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do actually. I'm gonna try to do the variations on stream and then as these graphs load I can study the stuff on this list here. And that would be perfect actually. So I'll probably continue this tomorrow. See ya.